Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Turner.
I'm Jared Flowe.
Thank you for joining us again this week. So last week we started this two-part series talking about goals, execution, and discipline.
Discipline.
We talked about the importance of those three things and how they all lean on each other, right? A goal is how we form where we're headed, where we're going. It's our North Star. Where should we be in 5 years as a company? And then we go back and say, okay, let's build an execution plan as to how to achieve that goal. And then finally, where does the discipline come in to actually follow the execution plan, right? Because those three things, you pull one out, you don't have a growing company. You just have a job. You have a way to make money that day in and day out stays exactly the same.
Well, and a great visual example of that is I want to get to the top of a roof, right? And I set a ladder on it. The rungs on those ladder are the execution, right? The goal are how to get up there. Like I want to get to the top of the roof, right? The rungs on that ladder are the actual executables, the things that I need to do to get to the top. And then the discipline is to step one at a time, or maybe two at a time, but making your way strategically up that in a continual, steady space, you will eventually get to your goal.
Yeah. If you hadn't listened to the last episode, go back and listen to it now. We laid out some questions you need to be thinking through for today's podcast. But a really good place to start is that first one, and then come here, because today we're talking about actually executing and how do we do that.
That's right.
To get that started, one of the things that I think I like to point out to most people coming into coaching is that we need to change our acceptance of average, right? When you've been in this doing it for a while, it's good enough, right? That's fine. You know, it's easier to just this crew sucks, but you know what? They're good enough. They can get it done. I got to manage them. They usually do good work. Sometimes they don't. Increasing the quality of our product that's going out, not allowing an average worker to be here, not allowing the average thing to happen, often means you're taking a step back, right? Yeah. If I got a fire project manager, that means I can do less revenue. But instead of saying, you know what, I'll just make it work. And I say this because we're guilty of it all the time. Like we've done
100 times over.
Yeah. Every bad step or downfall financially that our contracting company's been through is because we've just accepted the average. We've been okay with someone who's good enough. We've been okay with, you know what, let's just get this done, and it is what it is.
Some of it's even the devil that you know, right? Yeah. And it's like, if I have to fire this person, I don't know the impact of that. I guess, I can deal with this, and I'll just micromanage them. And that poor decision every time.
Well, what goes along with not accepting average is when you look at a company, when we have someone come in and start getting coaching, whether they're a one-man show or they've got 7 employees, no matter where they're at. I mean, we've got one that came in with 18 employees, right? And so you look at them and say, if I tell you to fire anyone that's average or below, you're firing your whole company. And that is because the common problem is that you aren't setting expectations of your own processes and procedures.
Set the bar of excellence.
Your processes and procedures of your own company, of how you want things to operate, is not high. It's low. It's whatever. Just do this.
Show
just
up.
do this. Right. And so the leadership needed to make a 7 of an employee a 10 is the processes and procedures. I can take an employee with really tight, good processes and procedures. I can take an employee that's a 6 or a 7, hold them to a standard, teach them, train them, push them. If they've got gumption and they have a willingness to learn and a willingness to be molded and actually has a work ethic, I can make them a 10 all day.
Right.
But if my processes and procedures are a 5 to 6 in terms of detail, follow-up, leadership, management, I can make a 10 down to a 6 because you've got all the skills, you got all the abilities. You might be running a little bit better than my processes of how I run things, but that's all you're going to get out of this company, and you'll probably be gone soon because we're not performing the level of your expectations as a 10 employee. Right. And so looking at it from a bigger picture, not accepting the average and below average performance and work and product that you're putting out, which most guys don't believe that they are. And the truth is they are when we start looking at it. But not accepting that starts with you setting the bar internally for yourself, for your company, through your processes and procedures. That's why we force everybody, write your processes and procedures, take what we've got, take it, mold it, use it as a skeleton to build your processes and procedures that will walk along beside you, help you build. But with that being said, we have to set a high goal, high bar when we're goal setting and when we're executing as to how we operate as a company. And then we hold everybody to it because they're only going to be as good as I'm allowing them to be.
Well, and the reason why we want to start there when we're talking about a goals and execution of a goal podcast is because by nature of goals and execution, you're going to be creating systems and processes. It's just a part of that process. If I've got a goal to execute this thing by the end of the year, when you're talking about our contracting company, a piece of that is going to be systems and processes, and you want to have a sense of excellence where I don't, the average is no longer what I'm going for. So when I'm creating, I mean, literally all the way down to like when I'm creating a credit card procedures document, I'm going to think it through. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to process through it, and I'm going to make sure that it's detailed and it's done well, right? But also the other aspect of it is when you're looking at, I'm going to get to, let's just say $1 million revenue or $5 million revenue, whatever it is, and you start assessing as we spell out the process, what are the things that are hindering me or that will hold me back from getting to that? That could be crews, that could be employees, that could be an office manager, that could, right? And so you have to look at that and say, you know what, this is kind of the average, subpar. This person has either got to be able to be led to step up and given the opportunity to step up, or they're going to have to step out. Right. And making that, so that it's just kind of having that mindset as you're walking through these goals and then creating the execution plan. And
I also like to lead with this part when we're going into this, because execution and growth feel like if I'm not moving forward, I'm losing, right? I need to move forward. I need, my next
goal. It's weird
goal,
that comes from you.
I need to move forward, and my goal is 3 hires, and I'm at 2, so I'm just going to make my 3rd hire.
Right.
When in essence, I need to fire that 2nd hire. It was a bad hire. They're not performing. They aren't who I thought they were. And so if I fire them, though, I'm going down to 1 employee when my goal for this year was 3. And so I'm not going to do that. And so we understand, do you want me to move forward or do you want me to make perfect? Right. And it's what are we going to accept? I'm not going to accept average.
Right.
I can accept something that's flawed but being worked on and growth happening, and I see forward movement in that employee. But I'm not going to sacrifice quality for forward movement. Right. And that's where, as entrepreneurs, that's what you said. It's funny for me to say because it's very true. As an entrepreneur, my motivating factor, which we talked about last podcast, my motivating factor is forward movement. As an 8 on the Enneagram, I need forward movement to be motivated. If I'm moving backwards, I am semi-depressed, right? And so if I don't have that forward movement, I don't get my fill of excitement and my enjoyment that I get out of my job. So that being said, a lot of entrepreneurs that start companies have the same motivating factor as I do. Right. It's I need to move forward, and the money's great. Making money is proof that we're moving forward. And so for me, it's that forward movement. And for a lot of you listening, it's I need to move forward. I need to grow. And we overlook the problems that we're stepping over to try and grow forward. And it ends up being a huge issue, because hiring that 3rd person when the 2nd person sucked, I'm now dealing with 2 people that I'm training, and one is affecting the other. And so we're actually ending up moving backwards altogether anyways. I'm just trying to keep the balls juggled in the air, trying to make it work. Right? And so that's
sometimes forward progress is backwards.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It takes 1 step backwards often to go 2 steps forward. And so we don't like moving backwards, but assessing why do we need to move backwards. And that's where coaching really helps. It's an outsider's view of like, that guy's absolutely terrible. You're just holding on to him because you like him. He's your dude. He's your bro. You've gone to high school with him, right? You need to fire that guy. Or, hey, this is a leadership issue. That guy could be great. What you need to do is fix how you're managing him, right? And so that's the outsider's view, that the perspective that we bring as coaches in terms of, hey, listen, you're thinking through it the right way, or hey, buddy, pause. You can't move forward until you fix what's here today.
Right.
And so we want to start all of this conversation at that spot.
Well, and that's, I mean, one of the things that I always say is that to clean up a room, you got to get it messy first.
Yep.
Right. And that's sometimes, no matter where you are, whether you're just beginning this journey, it might get really messy before it starts getting some organization and order to it. Or you may be a little further down the road, but it's one step backwards, but it's still not traditional forward progress. So that's just a part of this. That's the way it works.
So let's go into the three phases: the goal, the execution, and the discipline. So starting with goal, Jared, how am I setting my goals? What should a goal look like? What should a goal not look like? And how do we start setting up those goals?
Well, the biggest thing that I would say about setting goals is that they need to be specific and they need to have time on them, right? You can't just say, I want to be a $5 million company. Okay, great. I mean, I guess you can, but there's, you need some more specifics around that. So if you can be specific, detailed, and say, by the end of this year, I want to be a $5 million company hitting 20% in profit, and I'm going to do that by hiring 2 employees, right? Or, you can be really, really specific with it. But the very beginning of it is take a long-term goal. From 5 years from now, I want to have retired from this business and hired in a general manager that's running it for me, and I'm checking in. I'm more of a consultant. I'm in once a week, maybe once a month, but I'm the owner of the company, but I've retired from it. That's my goal 5 years from now. Or I want to be in all 50 states 5 years from now. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, but that's your long term, and it's important to be able to have that long-term goal and then back it back up to a year, right? So based on that, I've got 5 years from here to there. So this year I need to be able to get there. I'm doing $1 million and I'm doing $850,000 in revenue as of last year. So this year I need to increase that. Well, how do I do that? Yeah. So let me look at it. So let me just say I'm going to do 1.5 million, right? Then what I do, and I want to qualify it. Well, 1.5 million divided by 12 months, that's X amount of revenue per month. Can I do that by myself? No, I can't do that. So there's no way I'd be working 90, 100 hours a week. There's no way I can do that. Okay. So then maybe I need to hire, or maybe, so that's kind of getting into some of the execution piece of it. But I always start at 5 years, start at your big long-term goal, then back that back into, based on that, where do I want to be that would feel successful and successful growth towards hitting that long-term goal by the end of this year. And then create a narrative statement that says, by the end of this year, I'm going to do X by this. Yeah.
Well, and we on the annual retreat in January every year, we sit down with the people that are there and do this, and we say, okay, what's a 1 year achievable goal that you want to be at? What does 1 year from today look like? When you get back here next January, what does success look like and what does failure look like? And let's write those down and look at it. But let's help you assess it. Because every company is different. If you are primed and ready to go as a company, you've got your processes in place, you've got a few good hires that are new and young and just coming on, you can increase by 2 to 3x your company and revenue by next January. You might be doing $2 million now, and you could get to $5 million by next January if all the parts are in place.
Correct.
The problem is a lot of people don't have some of those parts in place. They don't have the process. They don't have the procedures. They don't know how to hire. They don't have a process for hiring. They don't know how to pay people. They don't. All of the stuff that you have to figure out. That company might be at $2 million a year, but their goal, and we did this. This actually happened with one of the guys we were coaching. Their goal was, I'm not going to increase by next January in revenue, but I want my profit to go from negative 2%. I think they were at, to positive 10%. So I want to make $200,000 by next January.
Right.
I want to increase the profitability of how I'm bidding jobs, how I'm managing them, the holes in the bucket of crews that I'm paying 4 times to go back, how I pay them. So we need to assess each company individually and look, there's not a one size fits all goal.
Right.
It's not, I need to double in size by next year. That might be one company's goal, and two companies on paper look the same doing 2 million. One's trying to get to 5 million. One's trying to be profitable at 2 million.
Yeah.
Two very good goals depending on where you're at and what the growth you need. That's kind of where we excel as coaches with ProStruct Alliances. We sit with you and help you mold that. With everyone on the retreat we work with personally, Jared and I do, getting that goal, the right one in place as to what 12 months from now looks like.
Right. Well, and when it comes to a goal, it can be something as simple as, by the end of this year, I am no longer painting walls and putting on my tool bags. I'm 100% a project manager, right? And that is a 12 months from now, I can assess that. Have I achieved that? The problem with that type of goal versus a financial goal is that along the way, it's really difficult to make it tangible. Am I doing this thing, right? That's why, a lot of times when we're talking about making goals, the very, very beginning of it is just creating a financial goal.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, I want to be at X amount of dollars in revenue and profit by the end of this year, whatever that is. That is something that month over month, week over week, I can run analytics and figure out, am I running down that road or not, right? So that's one thing that I would say when you're talking about creating a goal. The goal needs to be financial and can roll into, I want to do $2.5 million a year, making 20% profit on average on that. And I'm going to achieve that by no longer doing the work myself, but being a project manager and managing subs on site. Right? Like, that's more of a specific goal of like, there's a dollar amount, there's the profit, and then I'm going to do it by doing this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So walking towards that, let's go on into the execution side. For execution, when we're looking at it, is I want you to look at, where are you currently the weakest? Right? I like to start there, because until we know what needs to be fixed, there's no game plan on fixing the company.
Correct.
Right? Every company, there's a spot that we can be working on. No matter what, our company, every company, there's somewhere that if you took a step back and looked at and said, this actually right here is the issue that's not happening.
Yep.
This issue with this person, I'm not good at finding good crews. I'm not good at executing the install of what I'm doing. I'm not good at this. I'm really bad at hiring people. I'm not good at communicating. Whatever it is, I want to find where the weak areas are for you personally as the leader in the company, as well as the company's holes, right?
Yeah.
What's missing here.
Well, and if you don't know, if you can't see it, if you're like, I don't know where my weak spots are, bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
I guarantee maybe your friends, family, wife, or completely outside third party could come in and very quickly see it.
Yeah.
A lot of times we just get blinded by our own crap.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't know, man. I'm grinding. I'm doing everything I can possibly do. I can't get to the next level. And somebody else on the outside comes in and said, oh yeah, you never show up on time. You tell people one thing and you don't do it. I'm like, well, I intend to, so I just, and so it's just sometimes if you're not able to be honest or if you don't see it, if you don't know what that, like, assess your problems, like what is the thing. If you don't know what it is, bring a third party in. And they might be able to give you some clarity on that. But then there's also a question you can ask yourself. Just look back over the last month, 3 month, year. What is something that is a problem that keeps happening over and over and over?
Yeah. When people are like, no, everything's great, customers are happy. Okay, so let me help assess. So I'll pull up, with someone in that position that Jared's talking about, I'll pull up their ProStruct 360 software, look at the jobs that are in the paid section. These are the completed jobs. Let's talk through them. 123 Main Street. How happy was that client? Oh, they were very happy. Great. Broad Avenue. What about that client? Well, that job kind of went sideways. They never ended up paying the final payment on it, but I just let it go because we missed this time. And they start talking about the jobs that went sideways, right? And so what I want to do is start on the whiteboard listing out what jobs went sideways and why.
Yep.
And then we want to take those and say, okay, out of the last 3 months, you've had 7 jobs that you gave discounts to that went sideways, that didn't work out. And every single one, you said the customer was the issue. Let's dive deeper into that. Why was the customer the issue? What processes aren't in place that communicate to the customer what the issue is, right? And so we look at it that way and start saying, okay, let's find the root of these problems. That's where we're starting to get things fixed on the execution side. Next, I want to lay out some realistic short-term goals.
Right.
Because we have we've talked about it plenty of times, a growth path checklist. It's 280 something points long of every little step you need to take from starting a company all the way through duplicating your company to multi-state, multi-city, multi-trade. And so on those, along that path, there are small things that everyone needs to execute. And that's why we say there's not one size fits all. Some people are at the beginning of that path doing 2 million. Mm-hmm. Some people are at the end of that path doing 1 million. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of where you're at financially. It's a matter of structurally where you're at, because we can grow from any spot.
Yeah.
Any spot we can grow, but you need that foundation laid. Because as a one-man show, I can bust my butt, get things done, and be doing $5 million a year on my back. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we're a successful company. Right. It's not duplicatable. I can't step out of it. I can't go on vacation. For me, that's not success. Yeah. Right. And so laying that out and saying, okay, what is realistic short-term goal? What do you need to achieve in the next 6 months that you don't have structurally sound? Right. We can't tell you what that is until we talk with you and assess you as a company. Mm-hmm. But having that awareness of these holes in the current processes, these holes in the current company, the fires that keep popping up, where's the gas coming from to create those fires? Yeah. We look at those, and those start becoming our achievable. So if there's a lot of that you need to work on, let's not hire in the next 6 months. If I have stability in those things, maybe your next move is a hire. Yeah. Let's assess that. Let's look at that. And let's build our execution plan around what needs to be done for the foundation, and then what needs to be done for the growth next.
That's right. That's right.
So going from there, we lay out an execution plan. We talk through it. We know exactly what in 6 months success looks like, which means what in 3 months success looks like, which means by the end of this month, I need X, Y, and Z completed. With our coaching program, we're saying, hey, we're going to call you in 2 weeks. Let's look at if in the next 2 weeks you can achieve these 3 things, you'll be successful going down your execution plan. And then you meet again. You say, hey, you achieved 2 of the 3. Let's put this third one back on the plate. Let's add a couple more things. In 2 weeks, let's reassess. Right? Yeah. That's the bite-sized pieces that it takes to eat the whole elephant.
Well, and it's funny because that's literally what I was just thinking is the eating the elephant. Yeah. That's what I love about this aspect of what we get to do, because I can't tell you how many times that over the years that I sat down and was like, okay, I gotta grow my department. I've got to develop this thing. And I'd sit down and be like, God, there's so much that needs to be done. I don't know where do I start? What do I do? Yeah. By going through this, you've literally boiled it down, and write your 10 things down. You know, if you've come up with like, hey, here are 10 things, these first 3 are the disorder that's causing further disorder in my business. I got to get those in control before I can move and start going up the rung of the ladder, right? And so you sit down, nothing else matters. Yeah. I don't need to come up with a hiring process right now. I need to my jobs keep falling apart because my crew sucks. I got to get a new crew in here, and I've got to be able to vet a crew better than I did my last one. Yep. Simple. Yep. Just work on that. That's right. And what's it's the eating the elephant, right? But everybody looks at that at the front end. You got this big elephant, and you're just one bite at a time. The other side of that is like, it's done. I've eaten this. I've achieved this thing. I've looked at the front end of it going, there's no way I'm going to be able to achieve that. Like I did 1 million last year. My goal's 2.5. That's crazy. I never thought I'd hit 1 million. If you sit down every day and go, okay, how do I hit the 2 million? How do I hit the 2 million? It's just continually overwhelming, right? But if I just boil it down to all I need to work on today is this one aspect, I got to find a better crew. Yeah. I got to find, whatever the next steps are. But it takes them into easily executable, I can do this week and get it done. Yeah. Right? The more consistency you do of that, the more all of a sudden you're going to get wind under your wings, wind in your sails, and you're going to look back and be like, dude, I'm freaking soaring. Yeah. Like, this is great. Yeah. And I've seen this happen with our coaching clients over and over and over, where we come in beside them and help create with their, direction and their thoughts of like, here's the executable plan. Here's where I want to be. Here's the steps that you need to do. And then they start doing that and working that 2, 3, 4, 6 months into that. They're like, dude, this is, I'm killing it right now. Yeah. Right. I've seen it over and over and over.
Yeah. Well, and that takes us to the third point, which is the discipline, self-discipline. And so the execution plan can be perfect. You could leave the retreat in January and say, I know exactly what I need to do for the next 12 months. And you feel really good. You're gung-ho. You're excited about it. Week one, you get back to the office and it hits the fan and 3 jobs went sideways. And Jared, you know what? We'll deal with that next week.
Yeah.
And then the next week comes, you know what? We're going to deal with that. You know what? Just give me 6 weeks. Let's circle up then. Then we'll get started on this. Let me just put out some fires, get things stabilized. And there's some reality to that.
Yep.
You do need to focus on the fires and put them out, or it burns the whole company down. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how do we start building in the discipline to do the execution? And so we've broken down into a couple items. Number one, time blocking. We've said this 100 times. We'll say it 100 more times until people actually start doing it. But time blocking solely, I'm gonna get up 30 minutes early. I'm gonna spend an hour every Monday before my phone starts ringing doing X, Y, and Z. This is what my morning every Monday is going to look like. This is how I achieve it. I'm going to put it on my calendar. I'm going to live and die by it. I don't care if I stayed up the night before partying until 2 a.m. drinking a lot. I'm still getting up at 6 to get this done. And I'm going to commit to being in that time block myself. And I'm going to treat that time block like it's my most important client. If I go to my most important client's house to do an estimate, I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking emails. I'm focused on that most important client and the estimate that I'm here for this hour. I'm going to do the same with my time block. Once I have my execution plan, I sit down for that 1 hour and I know exactly what I should be doing and what I have to achieve. If I don't have that plan in place, I sit down for that hour. I'm like, so I'll check my emails. Ooh, I need to update this client about this. And you're not actually achieving growth. You're still going back to the fires and what's on your plate for today.
Yeah.
So that's the very first one, time blocking.
Well, and that's one of my favorite topics because I talk about that one a lot.
Yeah.
One, because I really stink at it and have had to learn how to be good at it.
Yeah.
But that goes into the next spot because, what I see over and over and over is that there's a great desire to do that, but the staying on track, the consistency of that. That's why, last week we talked about, being in the best shape of our life. I suck at going to the gym on a regular basis and staying consistent at it. But when I have done it and been consistent, it's because I've had other people. I've brought other people alongside me. I invited people into it. I did things that had that held me accountable to it. Yeah. Right? Don't get down on yourself. The reality is that and this is what I said last week as well. More than 90% of people just are not great at just self-discipline, yeah. and that's okay, right? But don't live in fantasy land. Know that about yourself and invite other people in for accountability, which is the number 2 under discipline is that have accountability, have people that help bring you back in and say, hey man, you're rabbit trailing down that direction. You got to get back on track or you're going to run down that way and look back and realize you hadn't gone anywhere. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think one of a great example of this is having a client that says, you know what, I need to build my hiring process because my next move is a hire. Great. Okay. So in 2 weeks from now, let's have an outline of what I'm going to send you the ProStruct hiring process. We got a 10-step how to hire, but I need you to personalize it around your company, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it.
Right.
I send that to the guy I'm coaching. He looks at it. In 2 weeks, let's assess what you've done. We get back together. I've been too busy. I haven't gotten to it. Great. In 2 more weeks, let's have that done and we'll assess it. Oh, I didn't get to it. This happened and this client called. I landed this huge hundreds of thousands of dollar job. So I had to focus on that this week. Great. In 2 weeks, let's look at this. Can you get this done? Yeah.
Most of the time after the second one, I look at them and go, hey, let's look back. This is twice now that we've pushed this. What's causing you not to get this done?
Yeah. And without accountability, keep meaning to do this. The accountability side says, hey, you're trying to achieve a step that's probably further down the road than what you need to be at. What we need to do is back out and figure out why you can't find the time to do this. What's going on with that? Let's go back to time blocking. Let's go back to assessing how your jobs are operating. Let's take a step back because I don't think you're ready to do that if you can't get to do that.
Right.
And so looking at that from an outsider's, it might take you 6 months to get to a spot like I still haven't done this if you're on your own. With us, with a coach, by by week 3, week 4, we're like, hey, something's going on here. You're losing it. Time out. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about it. What's going on here? Let us help.
Yeah.
Right. And so the accountability is the outsider's view of we don't make excuses for the reasons things aren't getting done. Naturally, you're going to make excuses for yourself.
Right.
I don't care what happens. I care that you're honest with me. I care that you're following with and doing what you say you're doing. And if you can't achieve something, there's a reason. So don't come lie to me that you've done it if you haven't. I don't care
That's
about that.
not helping me. Yeah.
No, I'm here for you and the growth of your company. So let's be real and be honest why this isn't getting achieved. And so that's the accountability side alone that will help your growth happen quickly, efficiently, and effectively, because we start troubleshooting the hurdles that you keep running into that you can't get past.
Well, and I don't care who you are. I think anybody who is running a business needs to have an outside person that is helping and holding them accountable.
Not your spouse.
Not your spouse. Yeah, that's a poor decision. But you can get somebody who's good at business. Get somebody. It's difficult to find somebody who's going to be an accountability person that's in the same business as you.
Yeah.
Which is actually why it's really beneficial for joining the coaching program here, is because we're motivated for your success, and we have a tremendous amount of experience and understand what you're going through because we've walked it. We've walked those shoes. Well, so it's a kindred spirit of accountability. Like, I understand, I get it, but I'm here and motivated for your success. And so when you come with problems, issues, and things that you're going through on a daily basis, I understand it. Like, I get it, and I can empathize with it, but I can also see down the road and go, okay, cool, I get that. But then we're not going to get here.
Well, right? and with coaching, with accountability, what we're talking about, we've got 3 levels of accountability and coaching within ProStruct. We've got the boot camp, which is a once a week group meeting that you meet every Friday and go through with Jared. You're on it. That is a check-in point. That is super inexpensive. It is, it's a couple $100 a month is what it averages out to be. It's not a lot of money, but it's a great place to start to get weekly accountability that I know I'm going to sit down for this 1 hour every Friday morning to go through this stuff and kind of build my foundation. Next up, we have our growth level, which is a once a month meeting. You get personalized paperwork. You get us. Jared's meeting with you or one of our coaches are meeting with you once a month, right? Looking, assessing, and then we've got our executive where you have Jared and I both on your executive team where we're helping you make decisions. Call us anytime. So we have different levels depending on what you need. This isn't unachievable accountability and help. Right. Come in on the base level and work your way up to what you can afford. But having someone volunteer their time to be your accountability partner is very risky in short term, right? Because you can't demand stuff of them if you're not paying them, right? If you're paying for it, you can demand that we show up every Friday. Yeah. We're your coach. You're paying us to be there for you and to help. So, not to go on a side tangent of of self-promotion. But
it's just true.
But it's part of being disciplined and accountability. Start somewhere and have it locked in. Have a commitment to keeping yourself accountable. Because obviously if you could have grown further than where you're at today, you would have. Right. Get some help on that. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Last thing on our discipline list is getting back on the horse. So many times we see people fail, move backwards, and just say it's just that's where it's at. Yeah. Right. And just
which is inevitable.
Yes.
It's gonna happen.
Yes. And so having someone, again, not pushing the coaching, but pushing coaching, having a coach say, hey, that's normal. We fail. That's okay. You're going to fail. You're going to fail again. And you might fail at the exact same thing next week. That's okay. It's not a matter of failing. It's a matter of getting back on the horse and trying again a different way.
Well, and that leads me into a thought in kind of of one of our current clients that I like his perspective on this. He's been in a coaching program almost a couple of years now, and I've seen him go from the guy that's like, dude, Jared, I just don't have time. I see what you're saying. I just don't have time. I've got this and that fire and this thing. I've seen him go from that guy who had a tremendous amount of gumption and work ethic, but there was no direction and growth in his business, right? To somebody who's understood the value of having goals, having systems and processes, and then having time management around that, and the security and the peace of mind that comes from that. Yeah. When he falls off the wagon, because it happens, right? You got a fire that I just have to put my boots back on and I got to get out there and get it done. He actually creates a plan and says, okay, I am going to go out here. I have to do this. I'm going to do it. But by the end of the week, it's done.
Yeah.
And so he actually creates a plan around his backsliding or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like going back into where he used to be, where he doesn't want to live. He knows that if he's not careful, he'll stay there for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And so what he does is say, this has to happen, but I'm going to give myself a time limit. By the end of this week, by the end of next week, by the end of this month, whatever it is, that's when this is going to be done. And I'm going to get back to business as usual.
And that makes it achievable.
Yeah.
That gives yourself some leash, because a lot of us live in that and have lived there for years in our business, which is the firefighting mode. That's almost comfortable to us.
It becomes a default.
It's like, I'm good at this. I'm an executor. I can throw the belt on and go do the work myself. Whatever it is, I fall back into it. We all do. And so falling back into the execution side of getting things done, that's what we're good at. That's what started our company. That's what got us here.
Yeah.
But understanding, hey, I'm going to give myself some leash, but this has to be done by Friday. And next Monday, I'm sitting down and doing this. I don't care if I'm here till midnight on Friday. I'm not going to let this project, this issue, whatever it is, bleed over and steal from my company and my future.
Right.
And so assessing and seeing that and shooting off an email or text to your coach saying, hey, just so you know, I'm taking a pause this week on what we talked about. I'm going to spend this week getting these things cleaned up. Call me on Monday. Let's circle up. Right.
Yeah.
Those type of conversations, accountability, and getting back on the horse when you fall off, and saying, hey, everything's blown up. I've got 7 clients angry. I'm just going to handle that right now. I'm going to pause growth, because growth is putting these fires out currently, and that's okay. That's allotted. We don't want to live there though. So I think it's a great example.
I think the reality is that what we're saying is different than the way that you normally work.
Yeah.
Right. Which means it's uncomfortable. It requires an additional effort. It requires a different brain power. It requires me being strategic about the way that I use my time. And it's uncomfortable. It's difficult. It's different. Right. And if we're not careful to get back to a place of comfort, I'll just go back to that place. Yeah. Right. I'll just go back to that place of running and gunning and grinding and dealing with it as it comes up and being reactive in the way that I'm going. And you'll look up and 3 months, 6 months, a year will go on by and nothing's happened. Yep. Right. To go to a new place, you have to go through uncomfortable things. And that's a part of this. Create your goals, then create the specific executables that you need to achieve to get to that goal, and then hold yourself accountable and stay in that mindset on a regular basis, or bring somebody else in that's going to help you stay in that space and hold you accountable. Then you're going to get to the end of the year and you'll finally have achieved a year. You get to the end of it and you're like, I'm not where I want to be, but this year was successful. I've made forward progress. I'm better. I've learned more. I've made more money, right? That's the end. There's not a better feeling than there's been plenty of years that we've just, in our GC company, we've gone to the end of the year and like, well, I mean, we worked really hard this year.
Reset.
Right?
Let's go again.
Let's just do it again. But the years that we the goal of whatever, 5 million, and we hit 3.85, but it was above and beyond what we did the year before. We created a bunch of new systems and processes. We've been able to hire in good people because we learned from our mistakes the year before. We got to the end of the year. We didn't hit the 5 million that we wanted to, but it felt good because we made forward progress. We're in a good trajectory. There's nothing better than getting to the end of the year and be like, you know what? That was a successful year. Yeah.
Yep. If you want to have a free conversation about how to do this for your company and assess, go to our website, go to the Contact Us, and reach out. We'd love to hop on. Jared or I could be on a Zoom with you, talk you through it. We are long-term partnerships with you. So if today's not the day that you're ready to sign up for coaching, no problem. Get some sort of directional help. Get someone to look at your company and say, you're doing it great. You're doing good. Come on the retreat in January, right? We would love to have you there. We'd love to chat with you about what that looks like and how to get there. But come on the retreat, get a jump start right now. Right? We're nearing the end of the year, going into fourth quarter. Now's the time to start thinking about how are we going to change next year from what we did this year. And maybe you're doing great this year. That's hopefully you are. let's keep that momentum going for the next step. Let's continue that down the road. Let's make sure the foundation's there and keep you growing. So if you want that, go to our website, go to the Contact Us, reach out. We'd love to set up a Zoom with you. If you need a software to manage this, we don't talk about our software very often, but the ProStruct 360 software is the basis of everything we're doing here. It is a way to organize, manage, and set a foundation of how my processes work on every job site that we're on. So we have a free version. We have paid versions. I'd suggest a complete version. It's $199 a month to get your company organized. You can send invoices, estimates, you get online payments. All that stuff happens within the software. One click of the button, it keeps your QuickBooks updated. It keeps everything updated. Very sophisticated software if you're interested in it. Sign up for free at ProStruct360.com. Check it out. Love to have you on that. Love to talk to you about coaching. And I'd really love to see you on the retreat in January.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're interested, please reach out.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.